pretty good there. How's everybody doing? Hopefully I'm 5x5. We're getting ready to find out. All right, let me see here. Happy Saturday. This is the only day of the week that I actually know what day of the week it is because of shotgun here. All right, I'm getting some kind of sound. How's everybody doing this week? Looking pretty good. All right. Awesome deal. Thank you for being here. Jonathan Hicks, congratulations. Welcome back to the dance. He's been nailing it here lately on Saturday nights. I heard a nasty rumor that beaverines have been showing up all over the prepping community in the chats. That's pretty cool. I saw that earlier. Y'all were talking back and forth about it. I missed it the past couple of days, but I will be on the lookout for it. Who's up in the house tonight, beaverines? Never look back. I think I saw you say something about the wood stove was ready to go when I was making coffee earlier. I'm on coffee cup number 3. What's up, Cole? Chris Marie, Miss Cruz, how you doing? Matthew Kitchens, what's up, brother? Aaron Q from Central Texas, how you doing? I Spy, how you doing? Rocco, American Trucker and American Trucker's wife, how are y'all? Cogito, Leah's up in the house. Oklahoma Marquee, how you doing? Michelle and Brian McBean, how are you? And Amelia, happy Saturday. So quickly, thank you for being here. Thank you to the moderators who do an incredible job. Slow chat is on and Alex the Gamer, hello. Slow chat's on and it still flies on this channel. It just does. I'm so sorry, but the mods do a terrific job. And the folks on Patreon, this is their show. It's possible because of them, so thank you. Quickly, like and subscribe if you're brand new especially. Otherwise, the vacant seat on the Supreme Court, that's going to be filled by Elizabeth Warren. I don't make the rules. They're looking for a person, a woman of color, Pocahontas. So I'm just saying, she fits, she checks all the boxes, right? How we doing? So tonight we are talking about what is America's breaking point. American Trucker brought this up several times the other morning in chat. Pocahontas, Bama Jen says, and I missed it every single time. Every single time. He must have brought it up 10 different times. And I saw it on the replay and I said, man, that's a big enough subject for an entire video. So let's do this. And I posted the question, I think I worded it like, what is your breaking point? Over on Patreon, there were a ton of responses, and we're going to go through them tonight, and we're going to talk about America's breaking point and what the problem actually is. So we're going to start here, let me see, with Rachel. Rachel says her breaking point is that there's a leaked memo floating around from the ATF confiscating triggers. Some of you may have seen this memo and some not, but they're being shady. You know, they're trying to strip away the Second Amendment, chipping away at rights. And she is saying basically this is a deal breaker for her. This is her line in the sand, if you will. And everybody has their own line in the sand, and we're going to talk about that. Gretchen, over on Patreon, says the breaking point for her would be if she has to show papers in order to purchase goods or get medical services. So in other words, and you know with the papers I'm talking about, not only to enter, a Walmart or something, but any store, to purchase something, you're going to need the papers at some point. She's saying, no, that's my line in the sand. Can't get into the emergency room or, a quick clinic, Med Express, whatever the case may be. She's saying that's her line in the sand. That's when enough's enough. Let me see here. Bama Jen said if they choose to try and outlaw church or confiscate the Bible, that is going to be her particular line in the sand, and I do not blame you one bit for that. Nip Cattle Farm says, my fear is not enough people will reach that line in the sand at the same time. You stole one of my answers. We'll get into it shortly, but that's spot on. That is one of my fears as well. Rebecca says multiple things, but if war comes to the United States, boots on the ground, At this point, she believes that, even the sheep, or even the normies, if you will, are going to realize a line has been crossed. Namely, because they're going to be starving to death, and it's just going to be, a huge wake-up call, I think. So that was a good comment. One Girl's Trek says, children being taken away over mandates. Oh, yeah. That's a huge line. If we ever get to that point, it's game on, my friend. Mame's Legacy says an economic crash would be the line in the sand for most Americans, and she believes churches will continue in homes, even if they're shut down or if they come after churches. Historically, yeah, that's a big line, Nana. Historically, she's correct. A lot of times when people, come after Christians in particular, they will have church at home. But this should be a line in the sand. Let me just be clear for any religion. Just because I'm a Christian, I respect other religions, and they should also be able to worship peacefully. Teresa says, historically, the line in the sand for other, nations has been food shortages. And again, getting back to food shortages here at home to the point of, I guess, famine, that would be people's line in the sand. That's when they throw the gloves down and they're just done with it. Amelia says war, and we're also too dependent on China. But her line in the sand is war. So several people have said war. Squatch America, says another lockdown would be a line in the sand for them, and also the collapse of Western Central Bank. Justin says now. We're already past the line in the sand. It's time to do something about it. He just put now. So I've added the rest. It's time to do something about it. KWG Podcast says starvation. Again, when people run out of food, they're more prone to do something about it. It awakens the sheep. Alley Cat says an economic crash. Just a total economic collapse like we're still seeing in Venezuela right now. At that point, people are, forced backs Will York. I would agree with that as well. Just an economic crash to the point where the system doesn't work anymore. People are throwing their gloves down. Little Miss Prepper says, and this is a good one, when there are no more phones or internet, like a total grid down and a lockdown on top of it. If that were to happen, that's her line in the sand. People would not know how to deal without, the internet and phones. I'm going to be blunt about that. Canaanite says internet or grid down. So it's basically the same comment. It's a really good comment. Meg says when it affects you enough personally. And I believe that's one of the problems that we have here in America right now, which we'll get into in a moment. I promise. Morning Moon says gene therapy and camps. Train cars, that sort of thing. That's a line in the sand for them. And I would imagine it's a line in the sand for many people in chat as well. Talon says it varies by state. People see different things, and that's 1,000% true. What somebody is seeing right now in Los Angeles may be totally different than what they are seeing in, a rural area in Florida or something. Good evening, OFC. Morning Moon says economic and societal collapse. Joseph, we've reached the point but don't know how to mass organize. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, Joseph. Ivan says if a red wave happens in November and then it's just stolen right out from under us. To Ivan, that is the line in the sand, and he is ready to do something about it at that point. Northwest Prepper Girl says showing papers, no longer having the ability to own boomsticks, or forcing plant-based food on the population. Eat this or nothing. As a prepper, you should be able to avoid that, but the average person, I think she's saying that's the line for them. And finally, Jeff, not sure because the general population is so sedated. And then he goes on to say no freedom would be his line in the sand. So for me, it would be a dismissal of the Constitution. There seems to kind of be this push toward we need to redo the Constitution. It's outdated. I think that's a huge line in the sand for me. As someone else said, I think Bama Jen, outlaw or confiscation of the Bible. Because when you're getting to that point, they're banning books now. I just saw where they're trying to or may have already banned 1984 in some colleges. I believe they're colleges. They're trying to ban these things in. And that's because they don't want people to see it's happening. You know what I mean? Orwell, right? And forced whiskey shots and or camps. Those three things, and I'm ready to rock and roll. But the real problem, I believe, is we're a different country than we were in 1776. So in 1776 and the American Revolution, they really had that same line in the sand. They were tired of being taxed, not represented. Everybody was behind the same idea. Everybody had, or at least 3%, right, had the same breaking point. And that's not what we have here in America now. I just went through a whole list. Some people are willing to deal with more mandates, and they're not ready to do anything about it. Some people are willing to deal with another lockdown. Some people are willing to deal even with the Second Amendment going away or Bibles going away. Everybody has their own breaking point, and it's not lining up. And I think that this honestly is affecting how we organize here in the United States of America. You know what I mean? We're always saying organization is the issue, FJB, a bunch of you are saying. But until we have that universal line in the sand, it's really hard to get people organized and to get people together. It's amazing what's going on, and we're going to talk about it shortly up in Canada with the truckers. It's amazing to me that they were able to get that many people together behind the same idea, because it doesn't seem to work here in the United States. Not just truckers, but in general, people, they can't get behind the same idea. They can't even get together in mass quantity on the right and boycott Netflix, or skip out on certain stores. We're going to be talking about the cancel culture tonight. But until we do that, I don't know that we'll ever have enough, numbers to push back in a way that we need to, legally or otherwise. How you doing, Deneen? Awesome, Dynamite. What kind of boomstick did you add? I noticed somebody in here earlier, I think it was Matthew Kitchens, saying that his wife had picked a AK over an AR and he was heartbroken over it. We keep moving the goalpost. Yeah, Trash Panda, that's an excellent comment. I think most Americans will say, I'm not going to put up with this. And then when it happens, they have a bad habit, especially, on the conservative right, of pushing the goalpost up here and saying, well, this better not happen. Folks, we're dealing with stuff now that probably 3 or 4 years ago, we would have sworn we would never deal with. We'll never tolerate this. And it's happening in the wide open. KWG says they are building an AR-10, I think. Let me see here. Deneen, yes, absolutely. Keep prepping. That's fair, Tennessee prepping lady. Too many talk, but never put action behind it. And I really do think that everybody's kind of sitting there waiting on somebody else. You know what I mean? Maybe people would get behind it. And I'm not asking y'all to do anything illegal, obviously, but we don't have a Patrick Henry. And if we do, I ain't met him. A Patrick Henry of present day, somebody that just goes around and fires the troops up and galvanizes, this side of the line. I just haven't seen him. So if you're out there, Mr. Patrick Henry or Mrs. Patrick Henry 2.0, we're waiting on you. That's fair. For Captain America, the American people have allowed this. That's fair. And that's correct. We do need a new John Wayne. Happy Prepper, absolutely. Yeah. Y'all right. Alex Jones, Sarah. Alex Jones says the right things. Alex Jones has the energy, but a lot of people, now I don't really know the story behind it entirely, has something to do with his producer or something. But a lot of people here they've commented that Alex Jones is compromised somehow. I don't really know one way or the other, but he does say all the right things. Oklahoma is saying Alex Jones is a sellout. So I don't really know the whole story behind that. I've looked into it a little bit. A few people have sent intel over. Need better organization. Trash Panda, you're right. But in order to have that organization, you have to have the common thread to get behind, like the common rallying cry. That's what I was talking about with the Revolutionary War. It was taxation without representation. It was, we're not being represented anymore. It's us versus the king, and everybody kind of unified behind that. And now we have stuff all over the place. And you have a group of people over here saying they better not take the Second Amendment away. They better not mess with kids. And it's just all over the place. And how we actually get everyone organized, I don't know. Mandate freedom. That's what I'm talking about, Sharon. Absolutely. Mandate it. But anything else before we move on? I mean, we got other stuff to talk about tonight, but Prepper Cowboy, they will never make it through the Beaverine army, son. Well, the Beaverines keep showing up everywhere. I don't even know how many we have now, but they're all over the place. And I've heard, I don't know how true this is, maybe American Trucker or one of the truckers in chat, the deal that's going on right now up in Ottawa, Canada, I've heard that they may be coming to DC at some point and coming down and trying to, I guess, get the support of truck drivers down here as well. Another friend says, yeah, let's start organizing now. Absolutely, but I don't know how we do that. I don't know how we get that ball rolling. Mr. Campbell Soup, I'm about to have to quit my job over the mandates. I hate to hear it. There are a lot of people that have been through what you're going through right now for sure. 40 miles of trucks, the convoy in Canada. I knew it was a lot. I think they were saying upwards of, wow, what was it, 50,000 all told. I mean, this is trucks and this is other vehicles in there with them as well. It's just going to grow. I hope it does, Catherine. We're going to talk about it shortly, but I really hope that the movement does. Maybe so, OFC. You may be right. Dave, thank you. 50,000, yeah. That's what I was thinking. 60 plus miles. Canada's about to lose their mind. Russia has moved to the border, the building front between Russia and Ukraine. Russia has now moved blood and vital medical supplies to the border of Ukraine. Folks, I'm of the opinion that that is not saber rattling. To me, it seems like war logistics are being put into place. They're either planning an invasion full on, or they're anticipating some kind of incident with NATO to where NATO would try and advance into Russia. Either way, they're stacking up stuff that they would need during wartime, during battle. That's not something you would do to saber rattle. The United Kingdom, and I don't know how many, I just saw it before I went live, but the United Kingdom now, what's his name? Boris Johnson is threatening to deploy, it must be a massive amount of troops. He wouldn't say how many, but a massive amount of troops to counter Russia. He says counter Russia, and he mentioned that they had 100,000 troops, Russia. So in order to counter that, it would have to be pretty significant. Otherwise, pardon the language, but you're pissing in the wind. If you send 100 folks over from the UK, they're not going to last. No, I don't care how well they're trained against army like that. If they're moving medical logistics, that's the last thing. Yeah, before you go to war, you're correct, Connor. You want to make sure that you have a supply line to get food and supplies back and forth. But, you know, at the front lines, you're thinking triage, you're thinking blood and medical supplies and stuff for sure. And they've been moving armor for the last 2 weeks now. Let me see here. American truckers saying he hopes that the U.S. learns from this deal in Canada. Otherwise, they may learn from it down here. So, yeah, Russians on Russian soil. That's correct, Adam. But I don't know why you would move medical supplies and units of blood to the border unless you were either planning to invade Ukraine or you were anticipating an invasion headed your way. Otherwise, it's a whole lot of moving around and a whole lot of time and resources, human resources for nothing, really. We do need a new common sense, Mames. I'm going to mention this. I don't know how much truth there is to it. What we were talking about on Patreon earlier, I don't have it written down, but I think it was in Michigan. There's a school system where some of the school bathrooms now they're putting in cat litter boxes. For the folks on Patreon, you already have the intel for children that identify as cats. And there's one school system that is not doing it, and they're catching a lot of kickback. And I went to my kids. I'm like, "What's the deal?" And they said, "Yeah, well, we do have kids like that in our school system as well that act that way." But then I also had someone from Michigan say, "No, it was just a joke. They were messing around." I would hope so, because it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever read. And people over on Patreon were freaking out. Yeah, I'm serious, unfortunately. Now, again, I don't know if this is kids playing a joke or what, but it made mainstream news. So, yeah, that's where we're at here in 2022. Several of you, game over, Blue Coat says, it's just game over. Several of you have reported propane shortages in the last 48 hours or so. Apparently, it's gotten very bad. You know, there's been a shortage in areas on it, but now some of you are telling me you'll schedule a delivery and they're just not even showing up anymore. So, I mean, to be honest, I don't know how bad it's gotten. Are you folks seeing it in your area? Maybe price increases over the past week or so. What are you folks seeing? Oklahoma says, yeah, here in Oklahoma City. Plays a lot. How you doing? Pharmaceutical drugs getting short. Yeah, I have seen that in our area. Now, we do have propane. It's went up in price somewhat, though. China, Judy, we're going to get into that shortly. China has actually made a threat as of today. They made it earlier today. People throwing Biden under the bus on here, flagging a bunch of Biden comments. There are major price increases for propane in Tamar's area. Northwest Prepper Girl says it's taken 2 days to fill prescriptions. I've heard horror stories on prescriptions. We just filled mine yesterday actually for acid reflux, and we didn't have a problem with that. But I've heard horror stories specifically on insulin, and then a bunch of over-the-counter stuff as well. Sue, I don't want to alarm anybody. I will say a month ago, I did not think there would be boots on the ground here in the U.S., but with the threat that China made today, it is possible at some point, because we have an idiot in charge and he's surrounded by military idiots and they are warmongering. So moving along to the idiot now. Biden has confirmed he is sending troops to the Ukraine and across Europe. They were placed on like ready standby. He was considering it. He has now pulled the trigger and they are on their way. Most are from Fort Bragg. Wow. He did not specify how many exactly are headed over there, but he is saying that They're going to be positioned all throughout Europe and also on the border of Ukraine. There's some already over there, but more on the way now. General Milley says, and I ain't kidding y'all on this, direct quote, he gave a press conference, I think it was yesterday. He said war would be horrific and significant amounts of casualties would occur. This guy's been reading a book or something. It looked like he was giving a book report. You know, maybe he's learned something since Afghanistan. Somebody said chat's weird. I'm not sure what's up with that, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, Dave, he is, you know, he got caught using back channels to China when Trump was president. The guy should not still be in charge, but he is. And unfortunately, if we go to war with Russia and something happens over here on the other front with China, we could have two fronts, and we're going to have this dude in charge. So this is not good. This is bad news, really bad news. And again, he's saying it's horrific. One person in chat, I find it hard to believe. I know I see it popping up, but I don't know why that is. He needs to be fired. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. Or he needs to be at least relieved from command and knocked down a few notches or reassigned. They need to bring somebody else up because this man botched Afghanistan, you know, or he was a major part in us running from Afghanistan. I mean, we ran from Afghanistan. And at the folks we were fighting in Afghanistan, they're not quite as well equipped as Russia and China full on. So they're biting off way more than they can chew, I think. Get that tie ready. Well, we'll see. I don't know. So this intel is down below. T-Mobile to terminate employees who have not complied. T-Mobile, the phone company. This was not an official announcement, but rather an internal email that an employee leaked. Because the employee got the email, they were upset about it, they leaked it online. Again, that is T-Mobile. I'm not a fan of the cancel culture, but we can't continue to feed the machine. This is just my opinion. We cannot support companies that are so blatantly taking freedom away. Again, just my opinion. Getting over to the poll, that's why I decided to run the poll that I did tonight. How do you feel about cancel culture? The live crowd says cancel all woke companies, 47%. It's gotten out of hand. Cancel culture, 42%. I agree with both of those, actually. 9% say it doesn't work, and 2% says it does work. So I think if people make a decision to cancel a company and they stick to their guns, it does work. Now, at the same time, I hate it. I was just telling y'all the other morning, I hate it. I hate everything being so politicized. You know, you can't watch sports without hearing politics. You can't buy ice cream without the politics. You can't buy canned soup without the politics. So I don't like it. But it is one of the weapons in a conservative's war chest. Because whether they hate us or not, we spend money here in the United States of America. And these companies may hate us, and they may hate our, you know, our freedom, the fact that we're freedom-minded and we're not eating the propaganda. But at the end of the day, our money does matter to them. And one way that we can hurt these companies is a tie time. Okay, thank y'all. One way that we can hurt these companies is to spend our money elsewhere. That's the beauty of capitalism. But in order for that to work, we have to stick to it. We can't do it for 2 weeks and then go back groveling or whatever the case may be. Otherwise, they don't get the message. Cancel culture is evil, pure evil. Again, Worminati, I don't like it. I don't like cancel culture, but I'm pretty sure we're not the side that started it either. You know, conservative companies were getting canceled. Jim, we're going to get into that very, very shortly. Actually, now. China has now officially warned that military conflict with the U.S. will happen should America continue to encourage the independence of Taiwan. Prepper Cowboy, wow, you did not have to do that. Thank you very much. Sir, you don't have to do that. I'd rather you be prepping, but thank you. And that, that's an official warning from China. In my opinion, Steph, the tie, once we hit 1,000 in chat, I like to look a little more fancy because we're the big time at that point, and it's just something we've done for a while now. It's something goofy. In my opinion, what's happening here is this. China is not stupid. Okay, they're a huge military power. They don't like us. They realize that we've bitten off a huge chunk over on the Ukraine border, and we've committed a lot of stuff over there at this point. We've got our hands full. And they know because we have our hands full over here, we're not going to be able to 100% react to anything that happens with Taiwan. And so now they're going to push us. We have a weak, I would argue at least we have a weak leader. He's going to be slow to react if he reacts at all. We know where his son's been. That's all I can say about that. But if he does choose to react, he's going to react slowly to any situation in Taiwan. And then he's surrounded by generals who are in way over their head. I respect the fact that General Milley has served in the armed forces, but he seems to be in way over his head when it comes to strategy because he doesn't seem to have one. Either that or he's a total sellout. So, yeah, and exactly. Somebody just said on two fronts, America can't afford a war, much less on two fronts, because we're not going to win in that situation. And China's smart enough to know this. There's no way that we can fight Russia over here and China over here and actually win. There's just no way. And they know it. I think they both know it. This may be coordinated. They may have had this plan for a while, folks. Not super huge fans of either, but they're not stupid. They understand where the United States is at economically. They understand where our society's at, how divided we are. And yeah, cavemen beat us. There you go, Bobo. Bobo just cut and dry with it, A bunch of freedom fighters using Cold War weapons chased us out of Afghanistan. And when that happened, Russia and China are over here like, well, the U.S. is probably not the top dog anymore. And they really want us to take us down a few notches or watch us fail. So they issued that warning earlier today. Speaking of the Cold War, folks, I was thinking about this earlier today. Fallout shelters, okay? There were over 200,000, I had to look it up, residential bunkers built during the Cold War period, just here in the United States. But many towns and cities also constructed their own during the Cold War period. And I thought that was really cool to bring up because some of you may live in an area where they're still there. They're obviously probably way outdated and not in use, but it may be beneficial to know where these things are at or to try and do as much research as possible. There was more than that. There probably were prepping for it, but that's just what I was able to pull up online. According to the stuff I pulled up online, in D.C. alone, there were over 1,000 fallout shelters built. And I would gamble to say that most of them are still there. Now, I don't know what shape they would be in or anything like that, but apparently they're all over the place. Most small towns have one or two at least. And most of the folks that live in these towns probably don't even know they're there anymore, or they haven't thought about it. So it's just something to consider, if you know anything about the history of the area that you live in. But I wanted to bring this up because Red Dawn coming, exactly, Bill Jen. I wanted to bring this up because I keep hearing the term Cold War being brought up. We're entering into another Cold War. Either know where a shelter is at or have a designated spot in your home. Whether it's a basement, whether it's a tornado shelter or something. Many of you live in Tornado Alley. Have something. Have a place where you can go, a kind of a fallback spot. You know what I mean? I believe actually, if you have a ditch, a large enough ditch, and you pull a vehicle over it, I think that that actually takes care of, I want to say it's 75 or 80% of most blasts. Now, that's not going to deal with radiation or anything like that, but it's going to protect you more than anything else. So basements will work for a lot of things. They're not going to help you if you're at ground zero of a nuclear strike. Basement's not going to help. But a good, solid concrete basement is going to help with a lot of other things. You know, something as simple as putting a tote of supplies. You know, make sure it's waterproof and everything. Get one of the plastic totes and put that in a basement or something like that, just in case. Swimming pool, okay. Basement, inside wall, under the stairs. Okay, Meg, yeah, y'all don't have to tell me where it's at specifically. Just make sure you have a spot, okay? And the basic stuff. You want the walls to be sturdy, preferably concrete in this area. Not a lot of windows or no windows even. You want to make sure that you have an emergency radio and all that jazz. And again, some of you that ride out tornadoes probably already have all this stuff worked out. But if we're entering into a second Cold War, we have to start thinking like the folks did during the first Cold War. And bunkers were the first thing that came to mind. Oklahoma said swimming pool. Yep. It would have to be a small one, you know, swimming pool. You want to make sure your head's covered. Some were built in dams around here, Prepper Nation. Rations were sealed in the metal drums. That's interesting, Arkansas living. I wonder what the shelf life on the rations were, you know, coming from the 80s. I wonder if they're 25, 30-year shelf life or, you know, what that looks like. Socrates, PhD. I'm glad you brought that up. I was watching a movie last night. Here we go, rant time. I was watching a movie last night. I hadn't seen it in a long time. Enemy at the Gates. The two snipers, right? The Germans and the Soviets. At the beginning of the movie, they're basically the Red Army. They're throwing these guys on a train. They're throwing them on the boat. They're forcing them to go fight. And only one out of every two actually got a rifle, for those that didn't know. That's a bad situation. That's communism, you know what I mean? Where you're being pushed in to fight somebody else's war. If you turn around, they shoot you. That is, you know, you're saying don't go and fight somebody else's war. It is a great movie, Bama Jen. But I was thinking, you know, most of those folks, they didn't want to fight, and they didn't have a choice. And I'm praying that we in this country don't get to a point where we have no choice, and they just conscript everybody, and you're going or you're taking a bullet. You know what I mean? Because that really does suck. Well, Rolf, that was not realistic. Maybe not. I mean, I wasn't there, but I know that they had subpar equipment compared to the Germans. Not as far as every other person having a rifle, that I'm not sure of. Yo Nation, you buy any arcade one-ups lately? No. I barely have room. Thank you for that. I barely have room for Pac-Man and then the tabletop. I had Final Fight at one point, but I gave it to my buddy, Millionaire Mike. Yeah, Jim, I'm hoping that we are able to avoid the draft, because the draft, as I've said in the past, not a fan of it. Not a fan of being told, hey, you need to go fight my war for me. This war is happening because of elites. You know, as much as I'll say Biden's a clown and the people around him are in over their head, I think that the elites pulling the strings want to go to war. And I think that it sucks that the little man always gets sent off to war. And that's no disrespect to soldiers out there. You know, it's not their fault. Are they still wanting to draft women? Bama Jen. It's 2022. They don't even know where the line's at anymore on men and women. I mean, we think normally like men and women, they don't even know anymore. I mean, again, they're putting litter boxes in school bathrooms. They have no idea. Anybody that's willing to hold a rifle and go fight their war, I think they'll send them. How you doing? How you doing tonight, Shorty? So, the U.S. power grid, they're now saying that it may come under attack by extremists here in this country. I've been hearing this all over the place. Several of y'all have sent, inbox me intel, but I've seen it in the media as well. Don't extremists rely on social media? Isn't that what we've always been told? They use social media to communicate. This makes zero sense. Why would they take out their only means of... I'm not disillusioned enough to think this is true. It's propaganda, but why would they? It's such bad propaganda. Why would they take out their only means of communication? Yeah, I do, KWG. It's probably an alphabet organization. AJ Nelson, the Golden Axe Shinobi cabinet is about to come. Have a little fun, will you? There's always room for one more. I love Golden Axe, man. My friend Adam and I in school, yeah, Golden Axe was the deal. I love that game. Shinobi, good game, freaking hard. I never beat it. But anyway, I think this is either a false flag, okay, or they are framing blackouts that they know are unavoidable. Okay, so what I mean by this is either, like y'all have said, an alphabet organization, false flag. You know, they're trying to get something started here in the United States, arrest maybe a bunch of patriots, you know, after they throw it in their lap. And the other scenario, I think, is they realize we don't have enough energy to support the grid long term because it's failing all over the place now around the world, folks. It's just a matter of time. And I think maybe they don't want to admit they screwed up. They don't want to admit it's their fault. So why not throw it in somebody else's lap? You know what I mean? But the whole narrative just doesn't make sense. Again, you know, I don't think this is extremist groups here in the U.S. By any means, because they would need the internet to communicate back and forth. It's just moronic to me to think that that's the case. Bells of the North Homestead, thank you very much for that. But at the same time, 75% of America will eat that up. They'll never question it. They'll just say, hey, these extreme groups out here are getting ready to ransack the grid. They never ask questions, do they? Another friend says, I assume a false flag that covers blackouts as well as sets up patriotism, yeah, and stops us from organizing. Absolutely, I agree with that. How do they expect, that's a good question, Bama Jen. How do they expect our entire population to charge their cars on the antiquated grid? They're all about this move to, you know, these battery operated cars, but when you get right down to it, they're just as bad for the environment. You know, to me, this is about people kind of getting out of one industry and getting into the other industry, and they're trying to make money over here now. You know what I mean? They've been making money for 100+ years off of gasoline engine vehicles, and now they're moving over here, and they want to force you over here and keep making that money. You're the ultimate customer, and me. E-cars is a scam. Prepping for it. Have you seen the bill to replace the batteries in the, what is it, Tesla or whatever? It's around $10,000 to get the battery bank totally replaced when they die out. AJ Nelson, tell me that's not a friend's lanyard. Back there it is, but it's my wife's. It's her work lanyard, yeah. She's a huge fan of Friends. I'm more into The Office than Seinfeld, but Friends is cool too. I like it. Yeah, electric cars powered by coal. Thank you. Somebody gets it. 300 miles and you stuck. Who said that? Let me see here. Who said 300 warriors, 300 miles and you stuck? I thought about that a few weeks ago when the folks were, where were they at? Virginia, I think, stranded on the interstate. And some of them couldn't start their vehicles to warm them up because, again, they're using battery power. And I'm like, I'm just not a fan of them. I know that we're making, as a society, we're making that transition over to that. You know what I mean? I ain't lying to myself. I know we're going there. I know we're going to crypto. I know we're probably headed to the metaverse or whatever, but I don't have to like it. And I don't have to think it's a good idea. Mrs. Outdoors, I have no idea. I really don't. The moderators here, they'll flag stuff with excessive language or any kind of racism. Beyond that, they don't flag it. And sometimes YouTube has their own group of moderators in here and they will flag whatever they want to flag. And unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. I won't buy an electric car either, James. Not me. I'll be buying, Fieros and stuff from the 80s, Ford Pintos. Yeah, Cogito, I mean, the whole argument just doesn't make sense. Better for the planet, and they're tearing the planet up worse to make this stuff or to replace this stuff, when the batteries are died and everything. I want an old Harley. Another friend says, give me a Ford or a Chevrolet. That's a trap question. Y'all know I don't like Chevy. Come on now. Rubber tires made from petroleum products. Overpriced Barbie cars. And they're just not. I don't want to sound like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like one of those guys, but there's just something that's not very manly looking about these little cracker box cars. I guess they get good gas mileage or whatever, but when I pull up and I see one, I'm like, dude, man, at least cover your face, wear a fake mustache and some glasses or something. I don't want to be seen in one of those. They aren't even cool. Exactly. Love Lacey. And the last thing I have on here, I think, yep, the Freedom Convoy that we were talking about earlier. Let me see here. AJ Nelson, thank you. Anyway, man, been watching you since day 5. Wow, he's got it down to day 5. Thank you. You're great. Low production value and great information. Low production value. That needs to be a t-shirt. I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. GoFundMe has started to finally release the funding over to the Freedom Convoy. I guess they were afraid of a lawsuit maybe because the Freedom Convoy had raised millions of dollars. I think they were up to $7 or $8 million. And GoFundMe was going to hold it. And they said, after a couple of days of deep thought, they said, no, we'll go ahead and release it to you. So they're releasing it to them in batches. They're not going to give it to them all at one time. So there is hope, folks. But organization matters. And it's something we lack badly here. Okay, that's Bear Independence phrase. It's something that we lack badly here in the United States. And again, getting back to, I think, we just move goalposts around. I mean, we do, and I'm as guilty as anybody. 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said, no, I'm never going to deal with the lockdown. I'm never going to be told I can't go here, unless I have paperwork. And now it's happening. So supply disruptions are going to, they're going to come from this thing, Freedom Convoy. That is going to, long-term effect, it is going to affect the United States as well. But to be honest, leadership matters. It does, Crazy Heathen. But to be honest, I'm glad to see it. I'll deal with these supply disruptions. It makes me happy. I've seen several of the videos from up there. People are excited. It's a good thing to me. 1930s all over again. That's what I'm afraid of, Alex the Gamer. Because by the end of the decade, we'll have a world war, if that's the case. Roaring 20s into the 30s, Great Depression, right around the corner, and then of course a world war. And I really don't want, world war is bad enough. The thought of a world war is horrible. But to have Joe Biden as president and Kamala Harris as vice president during this time, not good. Not good. These people are not going to be able to do it for us. 300 Warriors. John, do you believe this happens just here or all over the world? It depends. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you're talking about the goalposts moving, America seems to be the worst. I got to be honest. America, to be the freest country and to be the freedom-loving patriots that we are, we haven't stepped up. And then you have Canada, and they have no guns and all this stuff. And then, all of a sudden they're fighting for their freedom up there. They're protesting. They're getting something done. Marley just said that the freedom convoys are popping up in Europe as well. I'm glad. You know what I mean? Tim Osmond says America's fallen. I think the America that we're used to, like when we say America, we're used to a certain standard. I do think that's gone. How much of America we're able to hang on to is really up to us. Are we going to fall into, I think we're in socialism now, almost full blown. Do we make that hard turn to communism, or do we stay put? That's really up to us. AJ Nelson, thank you again, brother. How long will canned food last? Normally canned food has a 2-year best by date, but canned food will last way longer than that. You want to keep it out of sunlight. You want to keep it out of moisture. You want to look for rust on the can. Is the can swollen? If it looks like it's in good shape, even well beyond 2 or 3 years or even longer, after the best by date, open it, smell it. If it smells okay, try and cook it. If it's something that you would normally cook, it will last significantly longer than 2 years, as long as you take care of it. 5 years, Oklahoma said. I've known people to eat it beyond 5 years, but at that point, it's going to depend on what's inside the can, honestly. But thank you very much for that. Don't save dented cans, absolutely. 10 years, Muzzle Flash says. And that's one of the reasons you can get dented cans on sale. I guess you can still do that. Used to be able to do it. Keep canned food from drastic temperature change. Okay, thank you, OFC. Which, wait, what? Which YouTuber got charged dispatching a chicken? I have no idea. I've dispatched many chickens in my day, but they were already in a box with a biscuit and some mashed potatoes, and not a green box, I might add. But I have no idea what you're talking about here on YouTube. Somebody, Latina Prepper says Bear Independent. Wow. I mean, you know what I mean? I've eaten my fair share of chicken, but a lot of people are saying Bear Independent. I do watch his stuff, but I've missed that one. And I like Bear. He since you're bringing Bear Independent up, I like his charity work. I really do. He's the guy you go to if you have anything medical that in terms of prepping, he's the guy. When I think medical, I think Bear, but I truly do appreciate the charity work he does, especially he does one, I don't remember the name of it, but where he helps people that have been trafficked, and he helps them try to get them back to, I guess, as normal of a state as possible. And it's a really good charity. So yeah, he hates crowing roosters. Now I do know that. I've heard him yell at him before. But thoughts on Joe Pastor Fox? He's one of the top 3, Dusty, in the community. If I was going to form a mag, just simply like a 4-man group, myself included, based on the creators here, and that would be hard to do. You Bear for the medical, I think. Mr. Bull Hansen, who is in chat sometimes, I really like him as well. and then Pastor Joe Fox. Pastor Joe Fox is one of the smartest preppers that you will ever see here on YouTube, but a lot of his stuff is on Patreon now. But he is awesome. He really is. Grindstone Ministries. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, and I mean, you can list your favorite prepper outside of Prepper Nation. Absolutely. People are listing them, and that's fine. You know, all of the channels here have something different to offer. You know what I mean? Yeah, Marley. I mean, you know, they're real. You know, I appreciate it. And there are other real people. OFC was in chat. He's real. I like, I like MD Creek more. I like Zombie Farmer. You know, the Minted Maiden, if I'm thinking about growing things, the Minted Maiden is there. Rudy over at the Alaska Prepper, he's fantastic. Crazy Willie Mullins, how you doing, brother? 4 months. That is awesome. I appreciate it. I'm drinking Death Wish tonight, cup number 3. That's it, Thomas. Why would anyone fight for a cause they don't believe in? That is why half of America is doing nothing right now, because they think America's a horrible place and they're not willing to fight for it. And the other half, as we talked about earlier, our lines in the sand are all over the place. You know, we don't have that common line in the sand. Canadian Prepper, good channel. It is, big dog. I just can't afford any of the stuff he has over there. I'm on a budget, man. Ice Age Farmer, yeah, absolutely. Prepper Nurse 1, I was just over there last week. It's pretty cool, yeah. Still snowing here. We're not getting any snow here, Blue Coat. Snowing there, but here it's, I don't know, it's like 22 or 23 degrees out probably. Yeah, OFC is on point. OFC is the guy you want to talk to when you get down to squad warfare. In my opinion, you're talking about squad warfare, he's the guy. He'll tell you how to get that done. Patriot Nurse, yes. Jennifer Cruz, she's very smart. I get intimidated, though. Patriot Nurse and Christian at Ice Age Farmer, people that are so much smarter than I am. I'm just like, you know what I mean? They intimidate me. Magic Prepper, yeah, somebody said Magic Prepper. Warrior Poet, I need to write this down. I'm not familiar with Warrior Poet. Patriot Nurse. OFC, really, man? Patriot Nurse? You'd have to beat the other preppers off over there, all showing up with roses, right? Let's see. My camper is a little past you, and I keep fearing the roof will fall in. Sarah. Yeah, I mean, we have snow from earlier this week, but it's just laying around. It's been there for a while. Minuteman says, Gray Man Prepping. It's been a long time, but I've done a few videos with him, actually. Pretty cool. He's a great presenter. You know what I mean? Some people are just very well spoken on here. And they look professional. I throw the tie on to try and look professional. Autumn's Backyard Garden. Yep. She's hilarious. Let's see here. The Prepared Homestead. You'll appreciate Warrior Poet. I wrote that down. John trying to do magic hands. How would I do that? Magic hands. Arkansas. I've heard the term, but what is it actually? Magic hands. Happy Prepper. City Prepping. Alaska Granny I have seen, Chris. Yeah. Native Voice. Yeah, I know Native. Kevin, if you're in next time you're in Native's chat, tell him I said he looks like Jason Momoa. You can't unsee it. Or Aquaman or whatever. Yeah, Alaska Granny's cool. She really is. Risky Krisky, I'm not sure about that one. Southern Prepper 1, yeah, everybody knows him. AJ Nelson, I stopped doing the Skeletor thing Sometime last year, because I did a couple of videos and Skeletor was actually in the background and nobody saw him. Like, nobody was seeing him unless it was so obvious, and then the first person that would show up in chat would automatically see him. And if I made it less obvious, people missed it every time. So, Prepper Trucking replay. I mean, I'll watch the replay. I'm not sure what you're talking about, brother. Yeah, I will watch the replay tonight. Prepper Tribe. Well, folks, do y'all have anything else here? How long have we been going? Yeah, an hour. Do not, yeah, absolutely, just Vicky, do not neglect to prep the soul. That's the most important prep. You know what I mean? Because we can survive a long time on food and with freedom seeds and stuff, but nobody's surviving forever. Eventually, we're moving on somewhere else. You might want to start prepping for that if you haven't. You, Mr. Ray, you went from Skeletor to Pioneer Woman. This is all my wife's stuff. She loves all the Pioneer Woman stuff. She does. She's got the dishes and everything, man. Who will be Trump's next VP? Good question. I hope not Mike Pence. If I were, man, I tell y'all, I'm a Rand Paul fan most of the time. But people keep saying Candace Owens for VP, And then I've heard Nikki Haley's name thrown in there as well. No AJ Nelson, there's no Skeletor in the background tonight. It's just a lame coffee mug. Trump Jr., no, man. Not if he's trying to win OFC. They're not pulling any votes from the middle there. Ron DeSantis, that would be a good ticket, but they don't get along on some things. Jared Kushner. Yeah, Candace Owens seems to be the popular pick. Let's get Mike Pence back in there, T-Rex. Why? Why would you want him back in there? I ain't judging. I'm curious. Bill B is like, no, we need DeSantis in Florida. We're not sending him to D.C., son. Brian, I don't think Trump will run again. He may just be playing everybody. But he was having I think he's having a rally tonight, actually. Maybe on YouTube. People are saying no Pence. No Pence. Yeah, Pence is just a career politician. No OFC. OFC, you run for president, and I'll run on the ticket as vice president. How about that? Yeah, Pompeo, I don't know. People keep saying, look, Trump Jr., I'm okay with that ticket, but I'm a conservative. You're going to need some people from the middle and maybe some people from the left. They'll never vote that ticket. Never. Not in a million years. Would you see Flynn as VP? I've seen some of the stuff Flynn has done online. I saw him on Alex Jones. I think he was over there, actually. He's a smart guy. I like him. I like most of the stuff he says. I don't know that he's pulling liberal votes over or that it's even going to matter. I mean, let's be honest. We may not make it to 2024. We may not make it to midterms. And if we do make it, there's no guarantee it would be fair anyway. But Nana, some of the stuff Flynn says is kind of questionable, kind of shady, but he is a smart dude. Ted Nugent, he's just going to run around lighting arrows and shooting them off the stage. Tulsi, somebody said. Mr. Ray says, no shot. I think Trump has lost some support on that. I'll close with this. I think Trump has lost some support over warp speed, but also him coming out and encouraging people, saying it's a good thing to go get this. That being said, I don't think Trump would ever try and force it on people the way Biden has. I don't see Trump getting on TV and pointing a finger in people's face and saying, you need to get this. It's, it's all your fault. But I don't know. He has lost quite a bit of support because of that with some people. And then I've also heard he's part of the swamp. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those deals where we're not really supposed to know. We can have Democrats, Republicans, and Beaverines, the Beaverine Party. I'm telling you, we keep showing up in other people's chats. We have the numbers to at least get on a ballot somewhere. But anyway, folks, I'm going to run. I'll see y'all Monday. I'll tell you what, email me with some stuff that you folks would like to talk about. This have to talk about what's going on. Are we at war and stuff like that? But email tomorrow morning, okay? Until then, y'all take care and God bless.